Hey everybody, this is Josh again from Gateway Business Communications. In our previous video, we showed you how to load the media into the Epson C8000. Next, what we're going to show you is how to set up the media definitions. That's setting up your label size, material, gaps, margins, color correction mode, etc. Yeah, before we cut to actually setting all that up on the driver on your laptop, I do want to emphasize that we have this nice LED screen here. Within this screen, you can pretty much do any of the settings that you would want to be doing on your laptop. You can perform them here directly on the printer. And the nice thing is, any changes that are made here or on the printer should reflect on both devices. Let's get into actually loading up the driver and getting our media definition set up. So if you haven't already downloaded the Epson driver, all you need to do is go into Google and search this exact wording, Epson Colorworks CW-8000 driver. And then you're going to look for this Epson Colorworks CW-8000 support link. We're going to click on that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come down to operating system and we're going to select our correct operating system. Just in case you aren't sure where to find that, all you need to do is go to your search bar, type in about your PC, and you should be able to find what editions of Windows, or if you're on Mac, what Mac you're using as well. So we're on Windows 11, so we're going to select that and click Go. We're going to wait a second for it to load, and then we're going to open up this drivers app here, and then we're going to locate the printer driver, and we're going to click Download. So now this is going to download a .exe file that we can use to launch the driver. Let's open that up. We can say yes. It's going to unzip the file for us. Unless you are going to be using this computer exclusively for label printing, let's just not select this as default in case you have a laser printer you're using. And we're going to click OK. We'll agree to the end user software license agreement. If you really feel like reading through it, be my guest. And so this is a good thing to note. I'm not currently connected to my printer, so if you are going to be connected via USB, my suggestion is to be plugged into the printer when downloading the driver, excuse me. And so I'm going to go ahead and abort this because I'm not currently connected, but if you're connected via USB, use this. We're going to click abort. When you're setting it up, it should automatically recognize as long as you're plugged in correctly. And like I said, if we're going through the actual downloading the driver, you're just going to select the USB, click OK, and then it should fully download the driver for you. All right, so next, now that we have our driver downloaded, we can go and locate our printer. So you're going to go back into your Windows search and search for printers. And then we are going to go and locate our Epson printer. I have the other ones in the product line here, but we're going to select the C8000U. And then we're going to select printing preferences. So this is going to launch our driver here. This is everywhere where we're going to be making adjustments to our media definition to tell the printer the width and length of our labels, as well as the gaps and margins on there, the type of media that it is. Yeah, and so you can see here it's going to default to this 108 by 152 millimeter die cut label. This is just a standard template that comes on every Epson driver. So you can see here I have a 4x6 sample, but we're going to go ahead and create a new media definition. You're going to click here, and then you're going to go down to New, and then we can name this whatever we want to. Our recommendation is to either include the label size, like the width and length, or the label application. So let's say these are your palette labels. You can call it your 4x6 palette labels, let's say. So for those purposes, yeah, let's call it 4x6 palette label. Awesome. So this is pretty nice. We have a little diagram here. So if you're ever curious about which dimension corresponds with the width and length, we can use this little diagram here. So if we're clicked into the width, it's going to show us the width is the width that it's coming out of the printer, and the length is here, going perpendicular to the printer. And then gap in between labels is this gap right here. And then, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to change this to a die cut label gap detection. Awesome. And so we're just going to do our standard shipping label size 4x6. Typically your gaps on your labels are either 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. I recommend you go ahead and measure that yourself. One thing to note, if you're going to input to past the 100th decimal point, it's going to just round automatically to that decimal point. So we can just call this 1.2. And then die cut label, gap detection is correct, and then left and right gap. So typically gaps are around 16th, left and right gaps, which are we call margins, are typically around a 16th of an inch. If you go and input 0.625 though, the driver is going to recommend that you set it up at 0.08 inches. I've never really seen any issues with the difference between those two, so we can go ahead and leave it based on Epson's recommendation. And then we can select our media coat type. So one thing to note, just because you're using, let's say you're using a matte paper, doesn't mean that you can't go ahead and select glossy film. The printer is not going to fight you against that. The only thing that's going to change is the amount of ink that's dropped onto the label by the printer. So it's kind of like going from top to bottom, the least amount of ink to the most amount of ink. For our purposes, let's just call it matte paper. And then we have our color correction settings. So there's Epson Preferred Color, Epson Vivid Color, Epson Standard, and then there's also ICM. With ICM, there comes some standard RGB color gamuts that we can select from. And then there's also our preferred Adobe RGB 1998 and color match. I'm not going to get into it today how we download those, but perhaps in a future video we will have that. But in the meantime, if you're curious on how to get the additional color correction profiles, please reach out to us on our website. And then we're going to say no spot color. We're not doing a spot color. And then this is kind of just personal preference, honestly. So let's say you are using a continuous roll of labels and you need to cut it after each label. You can set it to cut at specified label and then set the cut interval to one label. So that means it's going to cut every single time. I'm just going to leave it as do not cut, stop at cut position. And so that's a good, you want to use the do not cut, let's say if you're rewinding onto a rewinder, so you can use an auto applicator, that's a good time to use the do not cut. Or if you're only printing out a handful of labels and you want to leave them all on the same roll, that's another suggestion. So looks like we have everything set up correctly. All we have to do is go and click OK. And now you'll see we have our media definition here. And then, so then you can come back into this drop down for media name. And you can see we now have our new 4x6 palette label, and it automatically sets up all of our definitions for us. And then we can click OK, and that should be saved to our printer. What we can do is we can go and locate our PDF that we want to print. I just took this as a sample because this is a 4x6 that I have for another application. So what we can do here, this is Adobe PDF Reader. Our recommendation is to download the free Adobe PDF Reader from Google. You can just search that exactly. You have more options instead of like printing from Chrome or Edge. You have more options to adjust to fit the size, to select the media definition. We're going to go ahead and go to Menu, Print. And so this is going to pull up our print window. What we're going to want to do is locate the printer that we just set up the media definition on. That is our C8000. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. So now we have our correct driver selected. We're going to click into Properties. And this is going to be a very familiar window. This is our Epson C8000 driver. So it looks like it's already selected for us, but just in case, most of the time it's going to pop up with this die cut label pre-installed media definition. So what we want to do is we want to go and select the media definition we just created and click OK, and then we should be able to print. And just in case anything is not fitting exactly the size, you can always use fit. There's actual size. You can do custom scale. You can scale it up 120%. You can also use shrink the pages. But we just prefer this print window from the Adobe PDF Reader. So it's our recommendation. You go ahead and download that. It's free of charge. But yeah, so once everything's all set, you can go ahead and click print, and then you should have a label printing out of your printer. Now we have some labels that are printed. And so just to recap, we loaded the printer with the media. We set up our media definitions on the printer and emphasized you can do it here directly onto the printer. And yeah, now we have labels to print. We can start applying these to our products. And that pretty much wraps it up for this video. If you want to check back here for some more videos, we're going to go over the key differences between the C8000 and its predecessor, the 7500, as well as some other applications for this printer and some of our other printers in the Epson Colorworks line. Like, comment, subscribe. Please leave your feedback. We really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. And yeah, this is Josh from Gateway Business Communications, and hope you have a great day.